Hello everybody. So in this video, I want to do a deep dive on GLP-1s and tell you why it may be bigger than we think, and it is a small revolution brewing out there. So GLP-1s, so what are they? So they are primarily drugs for diabetes in the early days, but nowadays there's mostly prescribed and discussed for weight loss. They're still heavily prescribed for diabetes, but much of the fuss that is being made about GLP-1 is all about the weight loss. And we'll see in a second that there may be other benefits to GLP-1s, which may be another driver as to why people even want to get their hands on Ozempic for things entirely unrelated to weight loss. You'll see in a second. Anyways, what are GLP-1s? What do they work? I think it's important to understand how it works. So what it does is it acts on your brain and it acts on your stomach. These GLP-1, they act on the brain control center for hunger and satiety and feeling of fullness. It also slows down the rate at which your stomach empties, which helps, again, feeling full longer. And it does other thing like stabilizing the blood sugar. And if it stabilizes the blood sugar, that means that you're going to have no such thing as an energy crash or a sugar craving. And perhaps more important, it changes the reward pathways into the brain. It changes your cravings by modulating the brain's reward pathways. And we'll see why some people, for example, report that they have less impulse shopping behavior on GLP-1, for example. That's one of the side effects that people seem to be discussing on social media and in various outlets. It's taking the world by storm, and I think to really realize that, I cannot recommend enough this video. Dave Ricks, CEO of Eli Lilly, in the All In podcast and All In interview, where they go into the details of that. The CEO estimates that about 10% of Americans currently are on some form of GLP-1, either an earlier form or a later form. We'll see in a sec the forms. And he thinks that maybe 30% of all Americans will have it. Of course, these numbers need to make sense in the context of how many people have diabetes, right? Many people take these drugs because of diabetes, which is one of the most common ailments out there, diabetes. And because of this revolution, of course, the stock of Eli Lilly, I want to point out, you see the stock is up 700% in 5 years. So not quite, but almost half of the returns of a micro strategy. Really doing well for a healthcare company, especially a big one like Eli Lilly. These are pretty impressive return. Like I said, almost half the returns of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy in that period did about a 14x. Tesla did about a 12x. This one did a 7x. So this is really good over a 5-year period. Anyways, let me go over the different GLP-1s so that we avoid all confusion. And this is going to get interesting. So there's most effective ones and least effective ones, and I've ranked them from effectiveness to the most effectiveness, most weight loss reported, to the least effective, least amount of weight loss reported. So let's get started with the first one, which is not commercially available right now. It's in a phase 2 trial. It's not commercially available. It's not available outside of this trial, and it's not available for human use. It's for research only. But that triple factor GLP-1 is called Retatrutide. Retatrutide is a triple factor GLP-1. That, and you may be shocked to hear, is kind of taking the internet by storm too, as the next gen, but the drug hasn't been approved yet. Yet I was very surprised to find a lot of companies that say they cater to laboratories and they sell labs and kits in order to manufacture the drug. I don't know how else to put it. It seems like they sell these weight loss kits where you can play at the lab and play at setting up a laboratory in your own house, and you just have to do some dilution and some practice. And it seems like there's a lot of resources on the internet on how to do it, on how to turn this Retatrutide into some injectable format. And of course, they write research use only, research purpose only. But when I go read the ratings, when I go read the reviews from people, well, I don't really know why they post pictures of themselves losing the weight. That's weird because it's supposed to be research only. But just know that this molecule seems to be circulating, although it is not approved for human use. It is only approved for research right now. But of course, when it's approved, right, that's going to be probably one of a monopoly of when and if, right? When and if, especially if. We don't know if it's going to be approved, but it's going to be one of the monopolies of Lilly. That's an exciting one that Lilly is working on. So this may be playing onto the side of Lilly's stock. Now, we're moving away from the research standards right now, and we're moving into the approved drugs. So the approved drugs is Zepbound. Zepbound is a brand name. The molecule is Tirzepatide. Tirzepatide, Mounjaro, it's called for diabetes. So this is a dual action GLP-1. Ozempic and Victoza, these are all single action. This is a dual action. Retatrutide is triple action. So again, in terms of effectiveness, Zepbound is known to be the most effective, slightly better than Ozempic, although you're not in an entirely new league. Lilly manufactures Zepbound. They own the patent, and there is currently no shortage. And this is why some compounding pharmacies have had to stop selling Tirzepatide. Hims never sold Tirzepatide. I cover Hims on the channel, as you know. Hims never sold Tirzepatide, so it was never impacted. But when the news came that Zepbound, i.e. Tirzepatide, was off shortage, the stock dropped because, again, the market didn't bother doing a Google search trying to figure out whether Hims sold it or not. Now, the third drug is Ozempic, and Ozempic is the most popular one, the most well-known one. It's the most common on social media. It is the most, for example, if you look at the Reddit page, it's got the most member on the Reddit page, and it's the most common on TikTok. It's really the most well-known. And if you live in the USA, live in a big city, you drive on the highway, you probably see billboards advertising for Ozempic too. I see it in my area all over. So Ozempic is what? It's semaglutide. It's manufactured by Novo Nordisk, so a European company. Novo Nordisk owns the patent. They own that patent until 2031 for the USA. And there is a current shortage in the USA, which means that because there is a current shortage, compounding pharmacies like Hims are allowed to sell it. And sure enough, when you go on the Hims website, Hims has their own compounded semaglutide. Remember, Hims is a digital doctor and a digital pharmacy without insurance, together all in one. And you can see they sell compounded semaglutide. They also sell the real thing for $1,800 a month, but the real thing is out of stock. And this is why. And by the way, to get a sense of these shortages, I really recommend going on Reddit. They'll show you on Reddit. Like a few months ago, there was not available in California. There's recurring shortages on these things, which is the only reason why they're allowed to do the compounded pharma, is because there's a shortage. The day this shortage stops, compounding pharmacies have 6 months, or 3 months if they're small, but they have 6 months to stop selling it. And that's why that is a risk to Hims, what if the shortage ends. My understanding of this is because these drugs are in high demand all around the world, my understanding is that the shortage is nowhere near gone, and that the shortage is going to last a while. But that's kind of a bet that one is making. If they buy Hims, they're kind of betting that the shortage is going to stay. Now, the last one is the first GLP-1 ever invented, which was also invented by Novo Nordisk. This one is called Victoza or Saxenda. Saxenda is the other version of the drug. That's the brand name. Victoza, Saxenda. The molecule is Liraglutide. That was the original GLP-1. It is now off patent, and there is now a generic available by Teva Pharmaceuticals. And they have exclusivity up until early 2025 on the 6-month traditional generic exclusivity. And then anybody will be able to make that generic. Now, Victoza is about 4 times, per what I see, 3 to 4 times less effective than this category of drug that Zepbound or Ozempic is. So if you look, if you read, this is like average loss is 22%. This is like average loss is about 15 to 20%. This is like average weight loss is like 8% from what I read. So it's less effective. That's not as much of a problem, I guess. The bigger problem for Victoza is that it's a once daily injection, and people may not be as inclined to do a once daily injection. But it's important to know that all of these companies who sell semaglutide, they may, if semaglutide comes off the shortage list, in my view, they will move to Saxenda, they will move to Victoza, they will move to semaglutide, because a less effective version is better than nothing. And there's a few companies that already sell Liraglutide for weight loss. So one of them that sells Liraglutide for weight loss is LifeMD. LifeMD already says, you can see here, Liraglutide, daily injection. They already sell it for weight loss. My guess is that if it were to happen that compounding pharmacy is not allowed for semaglutide, they would move to Liraglutide, because it is a GLP-1. It is the first GLP-1, the original one. So you get a sense of your general effectiveness. And of course, Retatrutide, supposedly the most effective, but under study, under phase 2 right now, not approved for human use. Yet you have these websites selling it for laboratories only, it seems. Anyways, I want to talk about the trends now, and I think this is important. So some of the trends that I've noticed, and keep in mind, these forums are very active. These are very active. So I didn't pull up something from, 6 months ago. This is from essentially today. This is from less than 24 hours as I record this video that I pulled this up, and I can show you ongoing conversations. And I'm just taking the Ozempic Reddit. There's all sorts of Reddit. There's all sorts of TikTok. But here's what seems to be discussed. The news that Novo is trying to add Ozempic to a list of hard-to-compound drug, a list which, by the way, doesn't exist. I covered that in my prior video. That news has been spread out so much that people are now saying, oh, wait a minute, demonstrable difficulties for compounding list is coming. It hasn't been here for 25 years. But anyways, maybe by way of a miracle, this list would come, and by way of a second miracle, Ozempic, a molecule which we know how to, we know how to manufacture molecules, by way of magic, it would be on that list. So you kind of need 2 miracles for that to happen. That rumor spreads much faster than actually digging under and looking at under the hood and looking at the facts, right? That rumor spreads, and this is what you see now in these forums. You gotta find a provider that allows you to buy multiple months at once. And guess what? Of course, HIMSS is one of those, right? HIMSS allows you, I think it's 3 months you get delivered, 3 months supply. And so people are like, well, you got to go for those multi-months subscription, for those multi-months supply, so that you can be ready to have stocked up some of the supply of that drug, just in case they do not allow the compounded version. And people are pretty upset about that. And of course, the main reason to be upset is the cost. So go and read all the comments if you want to deep dive in this. But this person is like, so is Novo going to make it affordable, right? They're going to make it affordable because my insurance doesn't cover it. Because unfortunately, I'm not diabetic. I'm just pre-diabetic. I'm obese. I'm hypertensive. I really need those drugs, but they don't cover it because I got to be diabetic. And it's too bad because I got to lose the weight because I have surgery coming up. I gotta lose the weight. My doctor wants me to lose the weight, but my insurance won't cover Ozempic. So people, to take care of their health, they have to go the compounded pharmacy route and go the out-of-pocket route. And of course, it's you saw on HIMSS, the price is $1,800 a month versus $200 a month for compounded. So the question is, how much more expensive, right, is it going to be if the compounded version of a drug is not allowed? A lot of people rely on it. 100,000. That's just on Ozempic. Remember, I showed you 6 different names referring to GLP-1s. And if you look at the other one, Zepbound has 74,000 or something. They all have tens of thousands. Each of these drugs have tens of thousands of people on Reddit, right? You may have total, if you add it all up, maybe 500,000 people on Reddit on that. And how many more on TikTok, right? This is another commentary from today. Oh, it's greed dressed up as safety, right? Talking about when Novo is suing, and not suing, when Novo is asking the FDA to add that to the list that doesn't exist. When Novo is doing that, they say, because they say, it's unsafe. They say, the GLP-1s are unsafe. Right, and this person says, I don't understand why they think we'd move to the brand name. We can't afford the brand name, and I think that's one of the main drivers for him selling the compounded version, is because people can't afford the brand name. If they could afford the brand name, if they could pay $1,800 a month, they probably would want the brand name. Frankly, if brand names were the same price as generics, everybody would go for the brand name. That seems very obvious to me. So people, trend number one that I notice is people tend to be, they seem to be trying to stock up in anticipation of the end of compounded Ozempic. And so, thinking of HIMSS, what does that mean? We may see a front-loaded revenue. We may see the revenue being pushed forward, pushed in. And so in the in the income statement, it might be useful for us to see at what point they recognize the revenue. Do they book all of the revenue all at once in a quarter, or do they try to spread it out and recognize it over multiple quarters? That might be something interesting. But we may see heightened sales because of people stocking up. That is trend number one. And trend number two, which is the one trend that surprised me, is that people seem to be experiencing side benefits that lead people to get these drugs not for weight loss, but for a side benefit. And I suggest you go on Reddit and type alcohol next to Ozempic or next to any GLP-1. And, look at the news, start searching the news. This is October 18, 2024, right? So less than 10 days ago. Right, Ozempic shows promise for alcohol. And when I read the comments, I am impressed. I take Ozempic for my alcoholism. I have 2 drinks and I get no buzz. It seems like it's disconnected going back to how it works, right? Modifying the reward pathways. When I read I have 2 drinks and get no buzz, I have an impression that the GLP-1 is disrupting the reward pathways. A drink gives me the worst hangover. So that's another reason. If a drink gives you the worst hangover, that's another way to disrupt entirely the reward pathways. I've lost all desire to be alcohol, and I think this may be working for reward pathways. By the way, they're studying it for alcoholism. There's studies on this, but if you read, there's other thing. It seems to be working for other forms of substance abuse, and it also seems to be working, believe it or not, for impulsive shopping. Apparently, people report less impulsive shopping when they are on the GLP-1. And perhaps an undesired side effect seems to be decreased libido. So again, talking about the reward pathways in the brain, these seem to be interacting with the reward pathways. And so, thinking of HIMSS, right? HIMSS treats decreased libido. So maybe a side effect of taking this weight loss drug, an undesired side effect is maybe decreased libido. So maybe HIMSS can counteract that with some other product that they have, for example, and maybe curing alcoholism is a highly desirable side effect that people who get on these drugs want to have. And I have found many people on there who actually say, they got on Ozempic because of alcoholism, and it's what they found to reduce their alcohol intake. So if you get on Ozempic because of alcohol, think about the disruptions of that. Disruption for fatty foods, disruption for sweets, disruption for alcoholism. When you put that into perspective, maybe we understand better the near $1 trillion valuation for, say, Eli Lilly on this. At least it helps me understand it better. And of course, when you look at the Dave Ricks interview, the CEO of Eli Lilly, and the discovery of these drugs and how they work, there may be a lot of benefit to these drugs. And the question is, which reward pathways do you actually want turned off? Like alcoholism, it's a good idea to turn that off. Impulsive shopping, it's a good idea to turn that off. Libido, maybe you don't want to turn that off because, Elon Musk would tell you, you got to have kids, and the last human is predicted to be in 2800. if we don't change the birth rate, right? Which is a Peter Thiel statement. If you watch the Peter Thiel interview with Lex Friedman, that's what he said. We're on track to have the last human be born in 2800 if we don't fix that. So maybe you want to make sure that you don't remove all of the reward pathways. I had a lot of very interesting conversation about this with my physician in house, as I call her. But anyways, which, by the way, doctor's advice is it's not advice, right? But it's what she tells me is like, be careful, doctors, and she seems to think too that healthy people should not get on these drugs, and nothing beats the healthy person's body is the whole idea. And you have some risks, right? And that's why, of course, it's doctor followed, right? HIMSS prescribes you this with a doctor, and it's a doctor who decides, because there's issues with gastroparesis that you could have. About 1 in 200 actually develop a form of, not develop, but is associated with higher levels of that. There's other issues with vomiting. There are side effects to the drug. I don't want to point out just the benefits. There are side effects to the drug, and so it's not entirely a miracle, and nothing beats being a healthy person. But for people who can't lose the weight naturally, or it seems can't say stop the impulse shopping naturally, or stop the alcohol naturally, which, we all have a limited amount of willpower a day, like this. If you look any holistic research about motivation and all of that, your daily willpower, you got to direct it towards something. It's not like there's unlimited willpower, and some people do. Some people have unlimited willpower, but no, the fact is, this conversation that I've been having about this, like the fact is, yeah, if you live on your own, if you cook yourself, you can control your food. But from the moment you start eating out a lot, you don't know how much oil the cook used in the food. You don't know how much salt the fast food or the cook or even the healthy restaurant you're eating at is putting in your food. And if you live in a household of multiple people, it's typically one designated person who cooks for the family, and you don't control how that cook does. Like there's a the idea that you have some control on what you eat, but you don't have full control on what you eat. And this is why people have been trying to lose weight for 70 years, and they don't always succeed. So these drugs, the market is telling me that these drugs have a role. They have a role to play. But remember the doctor's opinion on this, which is you got to be careful. There are some side effects. So anyways, let me conclude with valuation, as I always do on this channel. As you know, HIMSS, big position for me. Right, my third largest stock is HIMSS now. It's past end phase, and it's still cheap. It's still trading under a 10, under 0.1 on EV over GP over RG. How much am I paying for that future growth? I'm paying a 0.09. Rule of 40 is a 64. And remember, the HIMSS story goes way beyond the GLP-1. And I could argue also that the Novo Nordisk story and the Lilly story also goes beyond GLP-1, but it's tough for the market to see anything else but that. So that's all that is discussed. If I were to compare Eli Lilly to Novo Nordisk, I obviously find Novo Nordisk to be a better price. But the question is, Eli Lilly, how much future growth is the market actually pricing in that Retatrutide if they get it approved, right? I mean, Zepbound is already based on the data, better than Ozempic. Ozempic, granted, today, Ozempic is the champion today, but the market seems to think that, hey, Zepbound and then whatever else Lilly is working is going to perhaps overtake Ozempic. Also, the problem with Ozempic is that Ozempic is going to be off patent in China in 2026. Lilly seems to have newer patents, newer drugs, etc. So it's, I'm concluding by saying that this revolution is real, and I hope this was helpful. I think HIMSS, which is the stock many of us are interested on this channel, HIMSS will continue to benefit for many years from this, but the roller coaster is going to continue as long as we have this shortage fear, this end of shortage fear. But the drug is definitely popular among so many different groups in all sorts of populations. So anyways, this was not financial advice, not investment advice, not health advice. This was just entertainment, obviously. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.